When you hear Europe's economic leaders, Southern Europe is the last place that'll come to mind, with countries like Germany and France being the largest contributors to the Eurozone GDP. They're considered the force that's driving the EU forward. But what if I tell you that the tide is shifting? Southern European countries like Spain, Portugal and Greece, which were once economic laggards, have now slowly gained momentum and become economic leaders. With a growth rate that's twice the EU average, these nations have left Germany and others far behind, to the point where Germany seems like the country that's pulling the EU back. But the real question is, will they be able to keep up this pace? Stay tuned to the very end to find out, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos like this. Something extraordinary is taking place in the Eurozone economy, something probably no one thought would be possible. Countries that were once considered too far gone have been emerging as the economic leaders of the continent. For example, southern countries that nearly broke up the Eurozone during the financial crisis in 2012 are expanding faster than Germany and other large countries that have traditionally acted as the region's economic engines. The dynamic of the continent is improving, and so is the region's economic health. This has helped the Eurozone from sinking too far and stabilize quickly. Not only that, but in a turn of events, the laggards have become leaders. In 2023, Greece, Spain and Portugal's economies grew at rates more than twice the Eurozone average. This indicates a switch in the European economic landscape. If you go back just over a decade, Southern Europe was on the opposite end of where it is now. It was considered the core of a Eurozone debt crisis that threatened to break apart the Eurozone and took them years to recover from major national recessions and multi-billion-dollar international bailouts through tough austerity measures. But since then, the same countries have tried to improve their finances, luring investors, recovering growth and exports, and turning around record-high unemployment. Now, even though this is great news for the Eurozone, on the other hand, economies that were once considered unbreakable are dragging Europe down. Germany, Europe's greatest economy, is currently pulling down the region's fortunes. Ever since Russia invaded Ukraine and oil prices started to shoot, the country has struggled to recover from the recession caused by the price hikes. Eurostat, the European Union Statistics Department, said that economic output in the euro currency bloc increased by 0.3% in the first quarter of this year compared to the previous quarter. But the Eurozone economy shrank by 0.1% in both the third and fourth quarters of last year, signaling a technical recession. For example, Germany, which contributes to 1/4 of the bloc's total GDP, just slightly averted a recession in the first quarter of 2024, increasing by 0.2%. On the other hand, countries that are considered poor by EU standards, like Spain and Portugal, expanded at more than 3 times that rate, demonstrating that Europe's economy continues to grow at 2 speeds. But the question now is, how did countries like Greece, Spain or Portugal get ahead? Let's start with Greece. Just a decade ago, Greece was probably in the worst situation of any Eurozone economy. For example, their bonds were junk bonds, but today they've received the investment grade honor. But a lot went into the miraculous recovery that Greece made. The country received 3 successive German-led international bailouts from 2015 to 2018, which practically saved the country from bankruptcy. But what really got Greece back on track is its tourism industry. Post-COVID-19, people who were basically locked up in their houses planned vacations in different exotic places, Greece being one of them. Instead of just relying on this sudden boom in tourism, Greece has also implemented what's basically known as the Greece 2.0 plan. This prioritizes digital transformation and green transition, which have all played a part in bringing Greece's economy back to growth and stability. Following the COVID crisis, Greece implemented this revolutionary plan to aid in recovery and resilience. The plan, which received the EU's approval in July 2021 and was later updated in December 2023, uses a total of 35.95 billion euro, including grants and loans, to fund 103 projects and 76 changes. Greece 2.0 had 4 pillars: green transition, digital transformation, employment, and private investments. Basically, the plan intends to generate up to 100,000 new jobs, rebuild Greece's economy by promoting long-term growth, increasing competitiveness, and guarantee social prosperity. And to a huge extent, the country achieved that as it grew at twice the rate of the EU average. At the same time, the Portuguese economy has grown at twice the rate of the rest of the European Union, propelling the country to the position of economic leader in the EU. But this outstanding accomplishment wasn't easy. It took great effort, and several factors contributed to it. First, a revival in economic confidence and strong employment growth drove Portugal's economy to a considerable turnaround in the second half of 2023. Private consumption and investment experienced a temporary setback in the first half of the year as a result of increased interest rates, but they quickly recovered in the second half. This indicated how resilient the Portuguese economy is. But this expansion couldn't have been possible without Portugal's deliberate efforts to improve its tourism industry and increase exports. The Recovery and Resilience Plan was also crucial in encouraging investment, which in turn boosted the country's GDP growth. And the plan is anticipated to have a profound effect on public financial management, productivity, and Portugal's readiness for future digital and environmentally friendly transitions. That's something that aligns with Europe's future goals. The RRP seeks to tackle pressing issues by implementing important reforms and investing €5.9 billion in loans, with funding totaling €16.3 billion in grants. Further stabilizing the economy was the fact that the nation's inflation rate fell significantly, with the HICP inflation falling from 10.2% in 2022 Q4 to 2.4% in 2023 Q4, and it's projected to go even lower. As a result of these combined initiatives and advantageous economic circumstances, Portugal is now the economic powerhouse of the European Union. But Spain had one of the most robust economic growths. Now, there are several reasons why Spain's economy is growing faster than the average in the European Union, but key drivers of the country's economic momentum have been a sustained increase in domestic consumption and a favorable investment climate. However, it's important to mention that this positive growth couldn't have been achieved without the increase in tourism in the country. Moreover, retail sales and home prices in Spain have also recently surged, suggesting a robust domestic market. Not to mention, with one of the most robust gains in new employment in Europe, the employment rates in Spain further demonstrate the economy's resiliency. The Spanish economy outpaced the stagnant growth rates of the Eurozone and the EU averages in the last quarter of 2023, advancing at a 0.6% annual pace, despite obstacles such as continuing inflationary pressures and elevated interest rates. A flourishing finance industry also contributes to this expansion. The IBEX 35 index hit its highest level since May 2017. Despite facing challenges from outside forces, Spain's economic policy has allowed the country to keep growing at twice the rate of the EU average. Moreover, from the looks of it, the South might be making another comeback. Now that we've gotten how they managed to achieve this feat out of the way, let's shift our focus toward the two-speed economy and what it looks like. Rising investment from big firms like Pfizer and Microsoft, record tourism, and investments in renewable energy propelled Greece's economy to growth last year, which was almost double the Eurozone average. The Portuguese economy also grew by 1.4% in the first quarter compared to the same period last year, with the construction and hotel industries being the main drivers of growth, while the Spanish economy grew at an even more robust 2.4% during the same time. Overall, Southern European economies are correcting their excesses and tightening their belts. They've shaped up after living beyond their means before the crisis, and as a result, they are leaner, fitter, and meaner. Which begs the question, can Southern Europe keep up and fill in the gap? Well, the short answer is yes, but for the time being. Their growth has slowed due to high interest rates, but in its next policy meeting in early June, the European Central Bank, which sets rates for all 20 euro-using countries, has hinted that it could decrease those rates. Following the bank's strong battle to reduce runaway prices in the last year, Eurostat recently said that inflation in the euro area remains stable at 2.4% for the year through April. That is good news for Portugal, Greece and Spain, because tourism is a key economic driver in those countries. Expanding their economies to attract foreign investment in manufacturing and technology will also help those countries. Not only that, the European Union recovery funds have bolstered the economies of 3 member states that account for over a quarter of the Eurozone's GDP: Greece, Spain and Portugal. These countries have invested billions of euros in renewable energy and economic digitization through low-interest loans and grants. But despite that, economists warn that these nations need to keep the momentum going and boost competitiveness and productivity even more if they want their benefits to last. Wage increases for many positions have lagged behind inflation, even though the unemployment rate has dropped significantly since the crisis. On top of that, it's still unclear whether the southern countries' improved finances will be sustainable due to their heavy debt loads. For comparison, Germany has set a ceiling on the amount it can borrow to finance its economy. Moreover, according to Bert Kollegen, chief Eurozone economist at ING Bank, the investments in question will help make their economies more future-proof. And not to mention, if they pose a threat to France or Germany as Europe's economic superpowers, that can be considered crossing the line. Overall, it's still too early to say whether Southern Europe is returning to this path, but the economic winds are shifting. Just a decade ago, Northern Europe could dictate its solutions to the sovereign debt crisis because Southern Europe relied on a bailout. Now, Southern capitals may demand a more balanced debate on Europe's economic future. But what do you think? Is Southern Europe home to the next economic leaders of the continent, or is it just hype? Let us know in the comments below.